of white people.
Oh, whoa, whoa.
I'm not afraid of white people. I am cautious of white people. I think about water and electricity. Water, necessary for life. Electricity, it's also necessary for life. But I do understand if those two have a negative interaction, it could be lethal.
Dang.
Wow.
And so I'm not afraid of white people. I'm just cautious.
All right, so first a little nitpick. This analogy is not that deep, creative, nor is it specifically applicable to this situation. But this family acts as though it's words from the very mouth of God. Next, his analogy is pointing out how two good, useful things can be lethal if combined in the wrong way or set against each other in the wrong context. But that isn't specific to black and white people, and it certainly isn't specific in the sense of black people being the victims. This can be said of any two people, two white people, two black people, a black person and a Hispanic person, two Asian people, etc., etc. So again, this analogy is not very useful, and it's not really saying anything that isn't true of a million other examples. Lastly, as a mixed-race minority myself, I can tell you that this is a prime example of how minorities get away with saying the most overtly racist garbage out there. The most racist stuff you could come up with. Minorities say casually, in public, in front of people, to the people they are racist against, in this case, white people, and everyone just applauds. Imagine if anyone else said this about Hispanics or black people or Asians. Imagine if a white person said this about any of those groups. If they said, well, I'm not afraid of Hispanic people, but I'm just cautious of them. I'm not afraid of black people, but in the wrong setting, boy, can they be dangerous and destructive. That is something that you could not get away with saying unless you yourself are a minority, and it's ridiculous.
And I think the beautiful thing of children and about children is that we learn things as kids and it develops us as adults.
I'll just reiterate what Brandon Tatum, who did an awesome job originally responding to this video, said when he said that, yes, you do learn things as children, and this presenter here is a perfect example. He learned that racism is okay as long as it's against a certain group of people. He learned to generalize as a child, and now he is carrying that torch forward and presenting it as fact. It's sad.
Sure. Which is why you all being here with your children is the most powerful thing, because this conversation could be life-changing. Amen. And not necessarily for their life, but for a life of someone who looks like me.
And of course, to close here we go with the victim mentality. This could be important, not necessarily for your white kids' lives, but for the life of someone who looks like me, aka a minority. There's just one problem with that statement and with the whole sentiment and message of this video and this response to this unfortunate white child whose absolute failures of parents brought her to this setting where she can be propagandized. And the problem is this. Bro, what are you talking about? You're acting as though you have to be cautious, particularly cautious around white people. And they're like water and electricity. They can be dangerous. But let's look at some facts. These are the actual facts of the situation. Black on white and Hispanic on white crime are wildly high proportionally when compared to white on any minority crime, white on Hispanic, white on black, or any other combination thereof. So if anyone wanted to generalize and say that they don't live in fear, but they live in caution around the other ethnicity, it should be white people who are disproportionately victimized in violent crime by the other races and ethnicities represented here. This is the simple fact. Now, I don't support any generalizing like that. I think we should treat everyone as an individual. Everyone should earn their respect based on merit and their own choices. But that's not what he's saying. And if we're going to take his standard, we should apply it evenly, which would bring us to a very different result. Look, half of my heritage is Hispanic and black, so I don't like these numbers more than anyone else does. I don't celebrate them, and again, I don't support generalizing. But if he's going to make these bogus claims, then let's be fair in how we apply the evidence and how we live based on that evidence.